Hi and welcome back to my channel. For those new here, my name is Nikki. I'm an author and editor and I post videos here on YouTube about writing, editing, reading and all the other things I love. And it's the latter that we're doing today because it's the end of the month, so it's time to wrap up the film and TV I've been watching during October. Last month was pretty bare. There wasn't much to report. There's a little bit more to tell you about this time. So starting off with films I saw in the cinema, and I went to 2 during October. There were a couple of others I would have liked to have gotten to, but just time and money didn't work out, so I just saw the 2 that appealed to me the most. The first of those was The Seagull, which is a new film adaptation of the play by Chekhov. I'm a big fan of Chekhov, and I think I've seen a few of his plays on stage, but I think this is the first one I've ever seen on film, on screen. And overall I thought it was a pretty decent production. I gave it 4 stars. I really loved the casting. I thought that worked very well, and I also loved the cinematography. I mean, there was a wonderful moment where Corey Stoll is rowing in a boat, and we're looking at him from another character's point of view, and as he moves back and forward rowing, he's moving in and out of focus, and that was really beautifully shot piece of cinema there. So yes, overall I think there were 1 or 2 bits where they could have done a little better here and there, but the pacing came out reasonably well. I think it's one of those things where Chekhov's always going to work better on stage, which is why I couldn't quite bring myself to give it 5. But I think as a film, it did the best it could with the material in that medium. So 4 stars, as I said, and worth seeing if you like period drama. Next up I saw Venom. Now this one I gave 3.5 stars to. I was really excited for Venom. I love the idea of the character. I'm very keen on these kind of stories of people where they've got like a sort of second voice in their head, like they're sharing their body with someone. I write a few stories like that myself, and I really enjoy that concept. So Venom for me really should have been an absolute winner, and I did enjoy it. I mean, it was one of those films you came out, you had a good time watching it, but there were a few things that niggled at me, and I think part of the problem is that it felt like going back in time to a superhero movie from, the late 80s, early 2000s, before Marvel and MCU really turned things around and gave them a lot more depth. And I think the special effects didn't look brilliant considering what's possible nowadays. I think they could have done more with that. But in particular, they've proved with Deadpool that you can get away with a higher rating on a superhero film and still draw audiences. And doing this as what I believe was a PG-13, when you've got a character like Venom that is quite dark in many ways, I kind of feel they let themselves down in not taking it to a slightly higher level, maybe making it MA-15 or something along those lines. And they kind of lacked character depth as well, and it's interesting because I've seen an interview where Thomas Hardy was complaining about material they'd cut, and I'd be really interested to see that cut material to see if it would fix some of these problems. At one point Venom has changed his mind about his purpose, what he wants to do, and he claims it was because of Tom Hardy's character, Eddie, but we don't see anything that shows us that, and maybe that was in the cut material, and I just feel Thomas Hardy did the best he could with, did the best he could with the material he was given, but I just feel that if they'd given him a bit more to play with, it could have been even better. It felt like a missed opportunity, I guess is what I'm trying to say, that it was perfectly fine, but it could have been brilliant if they just made a few changes and done things a little bit differently. So moving on to films that I've watched on SBS On Demand and Netflix. First off, I saw My Teacher, My Obsession. This was a kind of psychological thriller, I guess. A handsome English teacher arrives in the town and one of his pupils falls for him to a really obsessive extent and pursues him by becoming friends with his daughter. I won't say any more than that because I don't want to spoiler it in case you're going to watch. I'd say this was probably about a 3.5 star rating as well. It was entertaining. Again, it wasn't a film I'd rave about, but I enjoyed watching it the once. Next up, I watched Justice League. You all know I'm not a big DC fan, but it was on Netflix. I didn't have anything else to watch. I felt like something just really low-key that I didn't have to concentrate on, so I popped it on while I was doing some crochet in the background and things, and it was okay. I mean, this is pretty a 3 star for me. you know, they had some entertaining action sequences, but I thought the pacing was really off. And there's just no depth to the characters in DC movies. Not like you get with Marvel, where you really see the journeys that people like Tony or Steve go on. It just felt a bit average, you know. What can I say, DC? Next up I saw Hold the Dark. Now this was one that my husband had been eyeing up and I had been resisting because it didn't look like my sort of thing. But then I saw Alexander Skarsgård was in it, so I allowed him to watch it because of that, although Alexander's role was fairly secondary, unfortunately. The basic premise of the story is that a woman, her son's been taken by wolves, and she calls a hunter in to try to track them down. She doesn't expect to find her son alive, but she wants justice. She wants to get the wolves. However, without spoiling it, things take a bit of a twist, and the story turns out to be a bit more complicated than the one she spun. So it's set in a sort of small town community, and it's a bit of a psychological thriller, I guess you'd call it. There's a few deaths going on and a lot of stuff happening in the background that the hunter gradually unravels as he tries to work through the mystery. I then saw The Immigrant. This was a really interesting piece starring Marion Cotillard, who, as a Polish immigrant arriving in New York in, I think it was the 20s. And when she arrives, her sister has TB and she's taken off into a seclusion, into a hospital ward with the threat that she'll be deported back. Marion Cotillard's character is desperate to rescue her sister, and she ends up falling in with Joaquin Phoenix, who effectively becomes her pimp, and she starts working as a prostitute in order to find the money to get her sister out. I thought this was a really thought-provoking drama. I thought the actors in it were brilliant. Marion Cotillard, Joaquin Phoenix in particular, gave great performances. It definitely held my attention from start to finish. I'd probably give it about 4 stars, I'd say. I think I forgot to give Hold the Dark a mark. It was probably about 2.5. So, but yeah, The Immigrant, if you like sort of deep drama, it's one to check out. And finally, for the films, I watched Nocturnal Animals, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. This was a really fascinating piece. My husband was sitting next to me while we watched it, but he was working on a computer at the time, and he did have trouble keeping up with it because it does jump. We have the past, the present, and we also have the book that Jake's character has written, and that another character is reading. And as she reads it, we're seeing it play out on the screen, the action. So there's 3 different timelines, storylines going on, and it does jump between them fairly rapidly, so you do have to pay attention. But I thought it was very cleverly done. Again, it definitely held my interest. I wanted to know what was going to happen all the way through. I wasn't sort of tense on the edge of my seat, but I did want to know how things were going to work out for them. So I would give this probably about a 4 star. It was definitely worth a watch once. It's probably not one I'd rush back to rewatch again and again. So that brings us to the end of the films, and I will now move on and tell you about the TV shows. So, got the book here. I finished, of course, my epic Buffy and Angel rewatch, which was taking up a lot of my time in August, September, so I didn't have as much to report in those months, but I've got a few more things I've been watching this month. First of all, I watched season 3 of Outlander. Now, Outlander's one I can never quite make my mind up whether I like or not. I keep watching it. And I'm not desperately in love with him, which I know a lot of women are, so I preferred, actually, I like Tobias Menzies. I thought his performance in it has been brilliant, and it's a shame that he's kind of out of it a bit more. He's gradually got less and less to do as the series progresses, and he's fully out of it now as we hit season 3. He was just in a few episodes. The voiceovers still annoy the hell out of me. I don't know why we have to have her voiceovers in every episode. It grates on me, particularly when what she's telling us is stuff we don't need to know. We can tell that she's feeling sad because she's acting. We can see her on the screen looking sad. We don't need her to tell us. And that's how I feel about most of the voiceovers. They don't really add anything to the story. They're just irritating. In terms of the plot this season, and I ought to just make a point that I haven't read the books, so I have no expectation of what's going to happen in the story. I'm just discovering it as the show runs. And overall I quite liked the plot. I thought it took a little bit long at the start, a little bit dragging, but once she kind of got back into the past, then things did pick up a little bit. I did enjoy the storyline of Jamie with that young English captain. I liked their relationship and how it developed, although it does amuse me because, I mean, Jamie just seems to manage to find every gay soldier in the British Army and every single one of them's attracted to him. I mean, that I find that a little bit hilarious, but yet again he's found another gay British soldier anyway, so to replace Tobias Menzies. So yes, it was enjoyable enough. I mean, every time a new season starts, I'm never in a great rush to watch it. I always figure I will get to them occasionally, eventually, and I don't dislike them when I watch them, but I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan. Next up though, I watched the 2016 BBC adaptation of War and Peace, and I thought this was quite a well done adaptation. I think, I mean, Andrew Davies is always good at his adaptations of the classic novels, and this was no exception really. I think they did well to concentrate more on the home and family stuff than the war stuff. We only go off to the battlefields when we have to for like information that's central to the plot. That's how I've always felt about the book actually. I kind of enjoy all the stuff between the family dramas, but whenever it went off to the battles I kind of zoned out a little bit reading it. So I think he did the right thing in structuring it the way he has. I thought the casting was good, the performances were good, it looked sumptuous of course for a BBC period drama, and all in all I think it was pretty successful work. Next up I saw season 3 of Lucifer. I'm a big fan of Lucifer, I love the character, and I think season 3 perhaps wasn't quite as strong as the first 2 seasons. There were some brilliant moments, but there were also bits where it kind of dragged. I mean, I wasn't keen on some of the flashback episodes and things, and it did really annoy me at the end because we had that really awesome episode, the 3rd episode from the end, that was absolutely brilliant. I loved every minute of it. It ended on this huge cliffhanger, but then the season finished with then 2 episodes that were really nothing at all. They were both pretty pointless. So I'm really keen to see what Netflix are going to do when they bring it back for season 4. I know from Tom Ellis's Instagram feed and things that they are filming at the moment, so we should get that next year I imagine. And I'm hoping that it will get things back on track with a return a bit more to the style of season 1 and most of season 2. But still enjoyable, I still loved it. I still think Tom Ellis is perfect in that role. Next up I saw season 2 of Harlots. This is another of those shows a bit like Outlander where I wouldn't say I'm a big fan, and if I couldn't watch future seasons it wouldn't bother me, but if they're there and I watch them I enjoy them well enough. So for those who don't know, this show is set in a brothel in Georgian England, or 2 brothels really. It's a bit of a war between two madams, 2 brothel owners, and you know, I thought it was a nice continuation from season 1. They introduced Liv Tyler as a new character in this season, and I really liked her role in it. And you know, it kept my interest. There were a few new characters, some new plot lines going on, while also continuing some of the stuff from season 1. So overall, I thought it was pretty successful. I'm not sure if there's going to be a 3, but if there is, as I say, I'd probably watch it, but I wouldn't be in a desperate rush or a panic if I didn't get to see it. And finally, season 3 of Daredevil. Now Daredevil is my absolute favourite of the Defenders team on Netflix. He has been from the start really. I think his character appeals to me more than Luke Cage or Jessica Jones, definitely more than Danny Rand, who's a bit of a whinger. But something about Matt Murdock really appeals to me. I love the character, and I think Charlie Cox was absolutely spot on casting. I mean, he's been brilliant. Season 1 was absolutely awesome. Season 2, there's stuff I liked about it, but then I thought there were places where it dropped in quality a little bit. But season 3's really brought things back to that season 1 buzz again. I mean, Charlie Cox's performance in this season, the emotional depth of his acting has been absolutely amazing, and it's really combined emotional scenes from him with some brilliant action sequences. So all in all, it was a really enjoyable season. And I'd love to see him enter MCU actually in the films, or maybe get his own spin-off film on the big screen, because he really is absolutely perfect in that role. So that's it for the time being. I have started watching the new season of Doctor Who, but obviously that's going to be running through into December yet, so you'll get an update on my thoughts on that then. I don't have anything else lined up at the moment actually. There's one or two things I've been half eyeing on Netflix, so I may try one of those. And if I do, I will tell you about it next time. But for now I'll close and I'll see you all again soon. Bye everyone.